Funk Tribu is one of those artists that has mastered the fusion of techno and trance music. Today we're breaking down his hypnotic style where fast BPMs, rolling basses and trance motifs come together to create his explosive signature sound. In the past few years he has risen to become one of the staple artists in the techno and trance scene, so we decided it was about time to make a video on his sound. By the end of the video, you will know how to capture his energy in your own tracks using his signature sounds like acid sounds and percussion. All the sounds that I'm going to use in this video are from our new pack Ignite, which is a hard house and trance sample pack, and you can find a link with all the info on this in the description down below. Without further ado, let's start creating the Funk Tribu signature sound. So I want to start with the bass line, which is going to be a 1/8 offbeat bass, and I'm using a really clean bass from the pack for it. It's called Bass Matte and it sounds like this. Essentially it's two wavetables, and oscillator A is a saw wave pitched down 2 octaves with the randomness turned to 0. And then this second layer is not actually doing anything right now. It's a perfect fifth, but we're not using it since we really want this just to be a clean bass. So a saw wave with enveloped 2 shaped pretty shortly like this and linked to an MG-Low 24 filter over here to get that deep and clean and warm saw sound. Then for the effects, the chorus and the delay is also turned off. And the only effect that is now on it is basically this compressor over here. So really simple sound, but really effective. So as I told you, we're going to create a 1/8 offbeat bass rhythm, which is one of the most straightforward rhythms there is. Let's go for a G sharp and copy it like this. And then you will have it sound like this. Got to mention, but his tracks are pretty fast. So as you can see, the BPM is set to 150 BPM, which really contributes to his really high paced and energetic sound. So the bass then itself sounds like this. Once we will add a kick later on, you will immediately get into that kind of bounce that this rhythm will give to your track. To make the bass a bit more crispy, I'm adding this OTT over here with 50% depth, so pretty harsh. Really make the bass a little bit more like crispy and crunchy. Adding a kick will show the kind of bounce that a bass like this introduces in your track. Let's see if we... Pretty hard and punchy kick. And this gets us in the right situation to start creating some kind of melodic lead on top of it. Because very often his tracks are pretty hard, but almost always there's some kind of get that trancey feel to it as well. And for that I will be using this lead called lead phase. And simply said, it's a square wave with PD modulation from wavetable B, which is a sine wave pitched up 7 octaves. And then there is some extra distortion on it to further crush the sound. As you can see, it's just a normal default shape square wavetable, 7 voices of unison. And then there's this phase distortion modulation right here. And as you can see, it's controlled by a macro, but it's set to like 50%, which means it's around here. And that just adds that little extra grit. So if we bypass it, it's still very similar, but it just misses that little extra dirt. Then we have an MG-Low 12 filter with envelope 1 linked to it and a bit of resonance, as well as this new Geiger noise from Serum, which is a really nice addition since you can here control the stereo field of your noise, as well as this count button right here, which adds more of the Geiger click noise. Really essential for the sound. Then a tape saturation set to 86%, so pretty harsh again. all about the grid for the sound. Then some reverb, an equalizer to further boost some of the high frequencies, and a chorus which is not doing anything right now. Okay, so I'm going to try to come up with a little melody on top of the bass line we just created. You don't want to follow this rhythm because you basically want to create some kind of interplay between all of these elements. Making the notes a bit shorter adds a little bit more room for the transient to hit, so it kind of gets a little bit more punch like this. I think this is sounding really, really solid. So let's add it to the lead pattern right here and then drag it into the playlist as well. For the processing, I'm adding a bit of equalizing. Since it's really sharp, we might want to get rid a bit of these treble frequencies right here. So we leave a bit more room for other elements. Then slightly a little dip in the sub and bass area and some reverb on it as well. And then that sounds like this. Then next I want to add an acid, which is also from the pack and sounds like this. It's a new wavetable actually from Serum 2, which is the Sawdrift 303, as well as the new filter, which is the acid ladder filter. So basically in Serum 2 they made it really easy to create good sounding acid sounds. Envelope 1 is shaped like this, pretty long tailed, as you can see right here. Then that is linked to the cutoff of the filter, as well as the velocity is also linked to the cutoff of the filter, which leads to when you press a note harder, it will open up the filter more, as exactly what you want for a 303 sound. Also quite some resonance to really get that dirtiness into the sound. A compressor and a delay and a reverb, and then you already have the sound. Make sure to not forget to turn on mono legato and add some portamento time, because then you will get that glide effect. And now we're going to try to subtly blend it into the track. So you can play around with the velocity settings to add some more variation to the sound. Overall, I think this is a really simple but effective pattern that we can use. So let's add this acid pattern to the track as well. First of all, I'm distorting it a little bit with this native fruity fast disc right here. Then I get rid of all of the low frequencies, also the ones introduced by the distortion right here. And then a slight OTT set to 20%, as well as some sidechain to blend it more nicely into the mix, but really softly set to 36%. The next synth I'm adding is this Trance Gate vocal pad, which sounds like this. So really trancy. It's a combination of two samples loaded into Serum 2 with a reverse loop turned on, so it continuously keeps playing. You can set that right here. Then on LFO 1 we have this Trance Gate pattern, just like the really classic Trance Gate, which is set to the level of these samples, which gets that stutter effect. And since the samples is pretty straightforward, there's some reverb on it and a little utility that slightly makes it less white. And yeah, we can now just start playing around with creating a MIDI on top of what we have already. Keep it as much on one note. Okay, so that will work. I actually like that this is a different note than playing in the melody. Add some more harmonic tension to the track. I think this will work, so let's add it to this pattern right here. Probably we'll use it later in the track. For the processing, I'm just using an EQ that kind of makes the whole sound a bit more bright by boosting some of the mids and the treble frequencies. Then next we have this cowbell sound, which is one of his signature sounds. He even made like a whole track tributed to this sound. So we're going to try to blend it in with the bass, and we can just basically play it on like a clap rhythm. Right here, add an extra note but with less velocity. Same goes for these two, just adds a bit more groove to the track. Let's now put this into a cowbell pattern and then see what it sounds like. To be honest, I think the whole mix is already so full that these don't even make sense. And if they kind of drown in your mix, it's better to just erase them to prevent any other problems. So you can start, for example, without the lead, add some kind of vocal on top of it. Let's now move on to the drums. Okay, so first of all, for the drums, I want to create a 1/16 rolling head pattern like this. Really easy in a MIDI pattern. Let's play around with the velocity for this a bit as well. Okay, and so for the rest of the drums, keeping it pretty minimalistic. So we have the kick right here that we already had. Make sure to cut it off at the bass for mixing purpose. On top of the kick, we have this open head, the closed heads we just made, and a crash, and a layered clap that just plays continuously. Then in the next part of the drop, let's copy this first. I'm adding a few loops, so top loops and rave loops that are also included in the pack. Another perk. And that, together with the synths we already created, sounds like this. So as I told you, we can also add a simple vocal on top of the track to really make it a bit more hypnotic, which is also very key to his sound. So this vocal from the pack really works well on this.
Touch me, tease me, don't let go. Faster, deeper, nice and slow.
It's like this whispery kind of mysterious vocal. I will now proceed to the arrangement and get back to you with the full arrangement. Okay, so as you can see, I didn't add any more elements. I just played around with the arrangement. Really simple sweeps and down filters like this, which also have some kind of trance gate. And then just played around with like leaving out different elements that we just made to create a more balanced kind of track. It starts off with just the drums and the bass. Then it proceeds to add the cowbell and the acid without even teasing the lead or anything. Some reverb effects on the lead to really create that big build-up vibe. And then here also in the drop you can see that we start with just the bass, the lead and the acid. Then the cowbell comes in, and then in the second part of the drop we also introduce the trance gate. So let me see, this can be done like this. And just like that, we basically created the full track. So I will now play you guys the end result and I hope you guys like it. So I hope you guys like it. I'm really happy with this tutorial as I think it's a really cool sound. As I mentioned already, all of the sounds I use in this video are from the Ignite sample pack. It contains drums, vocals, presets and much more. For all the information, check out the link in the description, and any support on our packs is always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram for more tips and tricks, which is at The Producer School. And for now, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I see you guys in the next video.